Thank you very much. Council members, you all have minutes from both September meetings. Have you all had a chance to review those? And is there a motion that we approve as submitted, or do we have changes? So we have a motion to approve the minutes from September 11th to September 25th as submitted. Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and at this time, we will open the floor for comments on public matters. So if you're a citizen, you'd like to make a comment about things that are going on in Radford, we ask that you come down to our podium. Be sure to use the microphone, state your name for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And we have a new clock up here, so if you do have a comment to make, you can see the countdown going on the clock there. So I won't be necessarily, we have this as a backup, but I won't necessarily be pressing the buttons here. At this time, we'll open the floor for citizen comments. Beep. And seeing no one, we will go on and close the floor for citizen comments. First up on the agenda is something special that we get to do. You know, we have the wonderful opportunity to honor citizens, honor people that are important to this community from time to time. A couple of days ago was Coaches Day, National Coaches Day, and it was an opportunity for people to recognize folks who've been important in their lives, whether it was in the lowest level of youth sports when they're just barely learning the game, all the way through elementary, high school, college, and even the pros for some folks. But we have a very special person in this community, and we have a special proclamation for them. So Seth, if you'll take the floor.
Yeah, I'll just add to that and welcome Coach Cormany and congratulate you on your retirement. Well-deserved. Your impact was felt on and off the court, and there's a lot of young men who have learned a lot of valuable life lessons from you and are appreciative of that, and this community is appreciative of everything you've done. So with that being said, City of Radford, proclamation recognizing Rick Cormany. Whereas the Radford City Council honors the service and contributions of Rick Cormany to the Radford High School boys basketball program. And whereas Rick has served as the head coach of the Radford boys team for the last 30 years, and whereas in his tenure with the team, Coach Cormany has racked up a total of 773 wins, good for the second most all time in the VHSL. And whereas Coach Cormany has led the Bobcats to 6 state championships and 5 runner-up finishes. And whereas Rick has a passion for the game that he instills in all he coaches, he invests in his players to ensure their success on and off the court as they grow as young men. And whereas Coach Cormany has a lasting impact on his players, this community, and Bobcat Nation, not only for the tremendous success he has seen on the court, but also the investment he has in the young men who have gone through the program and their contributions back to the Radford community and beyond. And whereas Coach Cormany has served as the Radford High School's boys basketball coach with dedication, expert knowledge, and love of the game, passing along his passion for the sport to those he coached. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Radford does hereby honor and thank Rick Cormany for his decades of leadership and dedicated service to the Radford High School boys basketball program. Mayor, I'd like to ask that we accept this proclamation.
We have a motion for the proclamation for Coach Cormany. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Congratulations, Coach. Come on down. Why don't we all head down front here? Right here in the middle. You're the star of this show. Seth, you want to get on that side?
Thanks, Coach.
And so we have this proclamation for you. We also have a little something extra. Every once in a while we're able to do this. You have the key to the city. So we are proud to present you with that. And thank you for all that you've done for this community, for all the kids and families that have gone through the program. And you're welcome to take the floor if you have anything you want to say.
Well, I thank you. Appreciate it. It's quite an honor. But you know, I think sometimes head coaches get way too much credit. been very, very lucky and fortunate to have a lot of good help around me for a lot of years, and have players. And I've been blessed to have really, really good players. A couple of them sitting back here, and this can't be done without great support from a great community like Bradford. We've never wanted for anything. If we played in state tournaments, we always seem to find a way to travel first class and do things first class. And very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. Make an impact somehow.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes.
Why don't you guys come on down and let's get a picture of the whole group? How about that? You all come on and join us.
Come on, Coach Davis.
We got the whole team going on. Here you go. You all get next to Coach.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is always nice when we can recognize someone for their hard work and for a career well spent and all the wonderful things associated with it. So thank you all very much, and, go Bobcats, right? All right. Moving on to some of our old business, we need to talk about the vacation of two rights-of-way, 110 Tyler Avenue and 52 Walker Street. Now, we've talked about these several times. We've had public hearings. We've done everything we needed to do. The Board of Viewers took a look at them. And on September 24th, we asked the city attorney to prepare an ordinance. So for 110 Tyler Avenue, do we have a motion to approve ordinance 1794 to vacate that right-of-way?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Is there a motion to do so? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And for 52 Walker Street, again, the Board of Viewers took a look at it. We had our public hearing. We asked to draft an ordinance, Ordinance 1795. Do we have a motion to approve for vacation of the right-of-way of 52 Walker Street?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can once again dispense with a second reading if so desired. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now I'll have to ask council's permission to add one more thing onto our agenda under old business. Boards and commissions, our City University Joint Commission. At our last meeting, we were still checking to make sure that the person that Kelly had identified was definitely eligible. I believe we've found that out. So if we can add that on there, Kelly, we'll turn the floor over to you.
We were checking to see if you had to be a Radford resident to fill the business seat for the Joint Commission. I think we've found out that it's broadly written, and I think we're all fine from what I've heard from the business seat being somebody that does not have a residence. I think if you have a business in Radford, you definitely have, a stake in its well-being and want it to thrive and prosper, to make sure that your well-being does as well. So Kelsey Jones, who owns BT's, I think she would be a great asset to the commission. The commission is definitely trying to be a little bit more active, and we've got some things hopefully in the works. So I would love to ask ask that we nominate her as to fill one of the 2 remaining seats.
So we have a motion for Kelsey Jones to serve as the business representative on the City University Joint Advisory Commission. Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? I think she'll do a great job, too. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank
Will you let Kelsey know that she's good to go?
I will.
All right. Under new business, seeing no more old business, we're going to move on to new business. And we're talking about surplus. So we are looking at surplusing some old equipment. Public Works is coordinating an auction of the city's surplus vehicles and equipment. The last one was 5 years ago, and the surplus items come from all departments. The things we don't need anymore. David, do you want to comment on any of the items?
Sure, this one, when you finally make this list, you're well worn out. So, just know that, anything that's got any life left in it, we have these every 4 to 5 years or so. And, it's a good way to, get some, revenue back on some of the things that we plus, or don't use anymore over the years. As, just to give you a little bit of lineage, once, we purchased a piece of equipment for a department, it's used through its life. So let's use the fire department, for instance, as a fire truck, and it's gotten to the end of its life that we can count it as a fire truck, its reliability, that kind of thing. Depending on what kind of vehicle it is, we can, those of you who've been on council for 12 years, we have donated them to the Boy Scouts, or something like that. If nobody steps up that wants them at that point, then we go on out for it. Well, we look to see if the department uses it. Fire truck's not normally something another department uses, although we did have a water truck one time we moved over into Public Works, so it's still there today. So it's still serving a watering capacity to water flowers and as a piece of equipment gets to the point, it's not serviceable to us. We're also looking at how that impacts internal services. That's that last budget item in your overall budget that affects every department. It starts costing you more than a piece of equipment. Time for it to go out the door. So list here are items that we've looked at. We've sent out to the departments, had them relook at it, see if they can use them, if they cannot.
Where will people be able to find our surplus list once we put it out there?
City website, also posted on channel.
Perfect. Yep.
I have a quick question for,
Send it out to some like some folks.
Yeah, people who would buy stuff that citizens might not buy, yeah.
do the proceeds of that go to the general fund or back to the respective department that the piece of equipment came from?
We usually try to get it back to the department. It depends on the amount of money. If it's something significant like a fire truck, it might bring $10,000. If it's used, we try to get that back to the fire department, but generally we just put it all into a general fund. The bulk of this is pretty much,
A lot of vehicles.
yeah, and they're mostly other than the public safety.
Well, I am
Thank you.
certain that the police department is sad about the 2004, 2006 Ford Crown Victorias leaving their fleet.
They be cruising in those.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, they,
styling,
you
right?
gotta give, they have a lot of wear and tear, and that we got the money out of those for sure. And like I said, I'm sure you guys are all very, very sad to see them go.
And the other piece of this is once they rotate out, we do hold on, make sure that some of them come back. We also look at it if it's more valuable to us as a parts.
Right.
Because we did have some police cars that were Chryslers we were able to move the motors around or something like that, or we put the motor in something and it still got.
I'm guessing these are, the Crown Vics are gone.
But you never know what it could be used for. Any other questions or comments?
So the thing like the wood chipper and the bush hog things, have duplicates of those?
Usually these have gotten to be pretty old, so we either have. Chances are maybe something that hasn't.
But again, they might have one that they need parts for too, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wouldn't be ostentatious to keep.
Probably the age is.
Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve the surplus sale list?
So moved?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I need to do a separate one for the auction, or are we good just by approving the list? Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask our chief to come on down and talk to us here for a few minutes. They've received funding from the Virginia State Police to focus on and eliminate auto theft. So, Chief, welcome. It's good to see you, my friend, and tell us all about this.
So, as you guys are well aware, we have the flight cameras. We have 5 flight cameras, and they have the ability to help us identify stolen license plates and stolen cars. This reimbursement's for $12,000 that pays for the 5 cameras that we currently have. We've had very, I won't say tremendous, but we've had a lot of success with locating stolen cars. You know, you just don't know when you're driving past them without running their tags. And so, before I came in, we actually had a stolen car this evening, and we had one last week. So it's definitely a game changer for law enforcement. And we're probably one of the first localities around to start using flock, but everybody else is, joining.
They're flocking to it. That's good.
Exactly right.
And that we have a stolen car, how often we run into that?
So it varies. There's different things, it's an investigative tool too. I shouldn't just say the flight part of it, but if we're looking for certain people or activity, but it triggers stolen tags and stolen cars. And so I get a text message and an email when we have it. But right now, this month we're batting 1,000. So.
Well, it's probably hard to know what we could have done before
Right.
to compare it, because we didn't have them, so we
Right.
drove past them.
Exactly. Just
yeah.
the technology's changed. This used to be attached to a police car, but now it's fixed points in the city that's making life much better for us.
It's great. I think we need to get more of them, so this helps. So, council, you all have appropriation ordinance 1787.12 in the amount of $12,000, a grant that's coming into us. Do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion. Do we have a second? A
Second?
motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I think it's a great program, and this is an example where smart technology, where people are so afraid, this really helps us in so many ways, and it's great to bring in additional money to the city to pay for it. So this is not just on the backs of the citizens of Radford. So that's a good thing. Looking at our next appropriation ordinance for library state aid, we have an increase in the fiscal year 24 budget. It's $185,333, which will bring our total state aid to $223,318. That's fantastic.
That is amazing.
It's wonderful to hear. We're glad. I'm assuming some of that may have been where they came to the budget late and made some budget adjustments.
Yeah, and I think with the surplus the states have.
Yeah. No. I'm really glad that gives us. Yeah, there's 2 different numbers here. So what's our total?
The original
Was 180,
Yeah, the original budget was 185.
and now we're adding 38,000 to it. So it's an additional, so appropriation ordinance 1787.13 is an additional $38,015. Correct. Okay.
Well, I was more excited the
I know, I
first
was
time.
too, but you know what? The total's still the total.
We'll still take it, yeah.
I'll take 38,000. So for many people, they don't think of the library as anything but a book repository, but it is so much more than that. So the funds will be used for computers, collection expansion, some additional supplies, furniture, which is well needed at the library, and some additional training. That library has become very much a community center in so many ways. People get all kinds of services there, and it's really important that we continue to make sure that's taken care of. So thank you to the state. Do we have a motion to adopt appropriation ordinance 1787.13 in the amount of $38,015? So we have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading. If so desired, is there a motion to do so?
So moved?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And community development block grant money. So we have received $204,683 for community development block grant funds. They follow the 2023 action plan that we approved earlier this year, which supports planning, administration, emergency home repair, facade improvements, beautification, and continued improvements to East Main Street and the Third Avenue parking lot as we can afford those, as well as continued support of our sub-recipient programs, including New River Community Action, the Women's Resource Center, Bobcat Backpacks, Radford Daily Bread, and Radford Clothing Bank. Council, do you all have any questions? We've talked about this several times, and it's such a great program, does so much for Radford. Melissa does a fantastic job coordinating it. Do we have a motion to approve ordinance 1787.14 in the amount of $204,683? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Is there a motion to do so? So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're aiming for 30 minutes. David, what do you have for us tonight?
Just a few things on my list. We do have a big event this weekend, Highlanders Festival. Been well publicized, keeping our fingers crossed. Weather's not looking too great after all these beautiful days. Looks like it's going to be 60 and 70% chance of rain, but come on out. They're still going to have it no matter what. The games and all, you can take an umbrella with you. Should be a good. Excited about that. It's a team effort by everybody involved. Also, our paving program for FY '24 is done. It was done very quickly this year. Got an excellent job. You now don't bump your teeth as you're going down West Main Street, and also a number of the gas line breaks that have been Calhoun Street, Lawrence Street. Those were all done, and then at large area of Terrace, and then the area around Hart Elementary School. All those are done. We've got to do some striping on those when weather permits. Coming to do part of it, and then our crew will be doing the rest of it. We should have everything wrapped up. All done. And I want to update you on finances related to, a couple weeks ago, last month, we've been working on improving our financial condition. Our revenue anticipation note proceeds have come in. Got those a couple of weeks ago. Caught up on everything and carried almost $2 million into October. That part's going really well. Revenues are rolling in now as they're supposed to and as forecast. Generally speaking, revenues associated with the utilities are performing well, and that's a lot because of the economy. We will have billed back $2 this year, and that's because of the new things that have come on. All the houses and restaurants and all the businesses that have come on. So that's helping grow our community and improve our local base. State revenues are coming in now a little more predictable than they had been. We went through not knowing and some delays on some of that. As all of you know, anytime it looks great to have a grant and we read that there's no match and that kind of thing, it's fantastic. However, we got to front that money. You don't just get it and then we get reimbursed. So the timing of those has been off. That has been changed. And then a few of these payments that have been scheduled in lumps, we've been able to get some of those scheduled out and scattered throughout each month. So that should help us a lot on cash flow as we approach the significant part of our revenue, which is the collections associated with
Through the state.
meals,
Yeah.
sales, lodging, personal property, all of those kinds of things that roll. Doing a lot better now than I was a month ago as this has worked out. I appreciate the support. We've got a plan to get the note paid back by the June deadline. Well, and we have a good year and no significant issues. All updated monthly as we go along, and
So just on that subject, and I think it's good for us to kind of reiterate this, with our budget, as was approved this past spring, it is a balanced budget that will end up with several $1 million in total reserves available at the end of the year. Is there any reason to believe that we're not on track based on projections to continue toward that?
it's still early in the budget year. We're just into the first quarter. I've gone through a meeting with department heads. We're making significant cuts. I just got to be sure.
Sure.
There's a lot that changed over the past year, a lot since the COVID years that we had. So like that, and just overall confidence in anything. So all of that we're trying to take into account. In fact, we've got over $1 million that are already cut out of the budget and looking to hit. No, we have a tight budget. I mean, we don't have, when you look at the individual line items, it's a few office supplies, it's some computer technology, there's some internal services associated with that, and a few projects, but we don't have a whole lot of significant things that we're going. So we continue to analyze election. I don't want to say yet. Looks like we're going to have leaf collection program. Probably leaves are coming down a little faster this year. We're hoping to maybe start rolling that out on a soft startup next week. So we are going to do that this year, but each program that we have, we look at it, see how we can better make it more efficient and save money and do providing that service.
Any other council questions regarding the budget?
I think by the time we get to November, I'll know a little bit more about how close we are.
Right.
I'm just being ultra conservative right now, making sure we have the cuts and
Sure.
the revenues are where they're supposed to be. We got another cut, and the revenue's gonna be higher than I had to worry, and then revenue's not coming in, and
Sure.
that's the plan at this point, so I should know a little bit more by the time we get to 30 days from now, 45 days.
I just want to say thank you, David, for giving us the information and working through this process. And I mean, I know that the economic health and vitality of this city is of the utmost importance to us and certainly you. So appreciate your diligent work on this and for working with us moving forward.
I got to thank my team effort. They've heard me.
It's everybody.
They're gonna say, oh gosh, you could talk about that one more time. So they've been great. We've been meeting pretty much weekly, and every time something comes in, they say, how much, what's it doing, what's it going, and we've done real. Everybody's really been really helpful. Thank the team enough to
Thank you.
We appreciate the monthly.
Back on the paving thing, I did have something else I wanted to ask. Are we still going to pave at the rec center? I know we had talked about that, or are you holding off on that?
I've not taken it out of the budget, but it is
Okay.
on hold. That was about project. We're going to do some repairs.
Okay.
To get us through if nothing else.
There's some places that really need it, and at some point you get into where you're like, well, you can put it off, but you damage it that much further, and then you've got to do that much more. So if we don't,
I hope it would be spring.
okay,
I'm not going to do it this fall.
okay.
I hope it'd be, make sure everything goes okay, and then put it.
Are you going to do the repairs this fall, though?
Yeah, we'll do the
Okay,
repairs
all right.
underway this week.
No, that sounds good. And I did have some residents, everybody gets really excited. It's a little challenging with some of the paving that goes on. And the stripes aren't down, so just be careful out there. There's some places where you gotta remember where the lines were a couple weeks ago. But some additional roads that folks would like to see paved. If they send us emails for next year's program, we'll get it on the list. That's what I've told people. So, there may be roads that are adjacent to where you are and your road hasn't gotten paved, but we've done everything else. Let us know so that we can get that on the list and do our best. There's a whole host of things that go into deciding. Traffic is one of the big ones. If this is a heavy trafficked area, we try to get that repaved. And certainly the age of the pavement, makes a big difference. We want to get our money's worth, but we also want to see what we can do if we can repair, if we can't fully repave.
And report potholes as well. We try to drive every street, but a pothole can come up and rain can come up today and it wasn't there yesterday.
Yep.
Just let us know.
So yeah, whether you let David know, or you let Public Works know, or you email one of us, or you call us and see us somewhere and say, hey, 6th Street needs paving, or whatever it is, let us know and we'll get it on the list. But yeah, David, thank you, and thank you to the whole team for all the work that you do. I mean, when we're having some of the challenges that we face, sometimes we get caught up in the challenge itself and don't think about all the people that are making the difference to keep it going. And we really do appreciate everybody working so hard to try to make sure that everything goes as planned, and that if we have any hiccups, we find a solution and move on from there. So thank you very much. Bobby, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank David Redpath for everything that he's done once again, and the team behind him.
So I appreciate all that. Just want to mention the Bobcats again. They're 7-0. Next game is away, Patrick County. And Rick Cormany, man, I've been to a lot of basketball games. And but anyway, once again, won 773 games over 4 decades, 30 years at Radford, state titles 2009, 2011, 2013, 2016, 2017, and 2019. 5 state runner-up finishes. Coaching staff has remained with him since the first championship, which says a lot. That says everything right there. And I know me and David Ripath have had those conversations as far as people that retired and stayed here. But anyway, thank you very much for his everything that Rick has done and everyone here. So thank you.
Thank you. Seth, what do you have?
I don't have too much. I think we've pretty much hit all the points. I thought the paving looked great. I've had a lot of people compliment that and thank us for that. And of course, as always, you know, there is a list of other roads that they'd like to see. And again, you know, I've told them to send them along, and we'll do it the best of our ability. But the paving looks great, and it was. I've heard a lot of people compliment that. I too would. Coach Cormany's not here, but again, you know, I won't hash it out too much more, but I will thank him again. I mean, his what he's meant to so many people. I never personally played for him, but a lot of my friends and people that I know have always said, you know, he would tell you the things that you didn't necessarily want to hear, but that you needed to hear, and you knew he loved you. And I don't know how many people have credited that they are better people because of the lessons he taught them, and it's a testament to the people that showed up and everything he's been able to accomplish. So wish him all the best in his retirement. No one has earned it more. And I'm glad that we take the time to recognize these people in our community while they're still here and still around. I think it's nice to let them know that we do appreciate that and the investment that they've made into the community. So I wish him all the best. And I know everyone will probably touch on it, but the Highlander Festival coming up, fingers crossed for good weather. But I do like that the students will be here this year. I know that was a point of emphasis. I'm actually on the work group, and unfortunately I haven't been able to make a ton of the meetings. They're a lot of times in the middle of the day, but I've coordinated with David and been able to talk to him. Tomorrow I'm planning to be there for the last one, but you know, a lot of work goes into it. I know it's a collaboration between the city and the university. It's a good thing. It's a fun thing. My wife's never been. She's really excited. This would be her first one now that she's an alumni too. But we're holding our breath for the weather. So fingers crossed with that. Last thing, I was just curious if everything, maybe looking at the next meeting for our agenda, if we have everything in place, would it be appropriate to go ahead and look at turning over the West Commerce Park to the EDA, or do we still have some steps that we need to do?
We've got that on the list, maybe not next meeting, following one of the next couple. We've got our grants in, we just want to make sure how that part of it works out.
Perfect. I knew we were kind of waiting on a couple of those things, so let's wait for that.
I don't think there's any issue between EA as a function of the city and you all appoint the board, that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, and we just touched on it. I again want to thank David and his team for the financial reports and the aspects. And I can assure you that is something that we take seriously. And you know, it's always budgets are a changing object. Things change, prices change. It's a living document. So I appreciate David and his team for working with us and getting us the information to help us make these decisions. So appreciate that.
And related to that, I failed to mention, we did meet the grant deadline. We turned everything in for funding to help us with any kind of brownfields improvements that we need to make, and that's associated with just property, fencing around the detention pond, doing the mowing and the testing that goes around the detention pond area. There's like some elevations, it's going to be some pictures. Like it looked like with one company on it, companies on it. Focus is hopefully it's somebody that we use a lot of electricity, use a lot of water, and generate a lot of jobs. So that's our focus, knowing that we don't have anything really large to be able to develop. I think it's going to be a real for us on West Main Street, business community. Thoughtful in how that piece of it works. Back is this building right here, so it's a very large piece of property, and next piece will be applying in November that IRF state funds that have now been put in. The governor's put in.
The development funds.
Development
Yeah.
funds, looking at that next piece, which is rounding up the
Old
large
foundation.
there, reuse of that, and then get it cleared off so the site can be. I know it's available, so somebody. Also, the DEQ grant, it does give. With a company. Hopefully, got all the seeds in place for everything we could possibly think of. Kim and team have done a great job putting everything together.
Thank you, David. And speaking of seeds, I'll just mention this real quick. I sent something to David about some remediation for sites. There was a nice article on sunflowers, and they were talking about how sunflowers will actually pull heavy metals and things like arsenic out of the soil. They're also something that are totally biodegradable, so you plant them, they grow, they pull out the material. You can either keep it going, just mulch them up, do whatever you choose to do. But how cool would that be? You know? I was going to say. I was going to say, but, I think that's going to provide us a lot of neat opportunity to do some things like that. And I'm excited that your new little Highlander gets a chance to go to the Highlanders Festival this year. That's excited.
Looking forward to it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Jesse, what do you have?
I will keep it brief this evening myself. My moment of silence was dedicated to Charles Marion Wilson. We had a chamber meeting. We are planning for the annual gala, which will be November 4th. Heritage Foundation was knee-deep in planning of the Slavery in Appalachia Forum, which we did have. All the slots were full on that and continues to be a popular event, and I learned something new every single time on that. And I promised I'd get back because the mayor looked at me inquisitively and said, I think that date's not right last time. And you are correct, as you typically are. The Mary Draper Ingalls Festival is the last week of July. My apologies, I have no idea how my notes got to September. So thank you for bringing that up and helping me make that correction. I did write out with the sheriff and look at property. We are now referring to that property as, before I forget,
We called it K property, I think.
okay, we're
Yeah.
referring to it as the K property. So we have a follow-up meeting scheduled for that really beautiful piece of property that we own, just figuring out the best use for that. Department of Social Services, I did have an opportunity to meet with Delegate Ballard in regards to our voucher issue. He has sent me an email. He's assured me that he is actively working that and moving it up the food chain, if you will, because we had risen as far as we could. So he was equally as disturbed by where it was left, so I will keep you posted, but it is actively being worked on. Attended a stakeholder interview for the superintendent search that we're doing. That was very informative, as well as being able to give some insight. CPMT, this is one of the city's larger budget items, I'm sure you've noticed. And just to give you an idea, I know I keep telling council how fluid it is. We have one child in our care right now that needs specialized care, and right now her bill is over $100,000. And it's accruing very quickly. And we are doing everything we can to look at resources, but resources have gone up significantly, the ones that we are needing, and specifically for this child. So that's how quickly in a month things change on that budget. So just, not to be Debbie Downer on that, but just wanted to give you guys some insight when we say this budget is very fluid. This is why.
Well, and that,
Yes.
I'm going to bring something up about that in just a
Yep.
minute.
And really, that's kind of the gist of where I've been.
And thank you for keeping us posted, because I think it's good for us to talk about what we're spending money on and why we're doing it, because I think some folks think it's just this imaginary, bunch of money that goes around, easy to cut, $100,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever, but it's people, and it affects people pretty significantly. Kelly, what do you have?
I don't have a whole lot. I didn't go first this time, so ditto to everything everybody else said. Adam and I were, well, Adam was, I did not. Adam's favorite coat, my husband. Did not make it to the homecoming parade, nor did I make it to, recent surgery, but, go Bobcats, that was an awesome game, I hear. So that was great. Citizens come out and enjoy.
Thank you. And yeah, it was a heck of a homecoming parade. The Bobcats did it up right. They did a great job, and it's so much fun to see all of our families having a good time together and so many kids coming out. Although I will say, I saw more candy thrown in that 4 blocks from Sal's to the high school. My goodness. It looked like trick-or-treating. It looked like Halloween, because kids had baskets and baskets full. So I'm sure our dental businesses in the area are very happy about that, and we continue on there. And great game. Go Bobcats. They're doing a great job. Really happy, too, that the team performs well. They were up 55-0 on at halftime on that game, and they didn't keep running up the score. They let everybody have a chance to play. They played with class and with dignity, which I appreciated. It's always hard when you've got another team that your team's just rolling over big time. Imagine if you're in that role, you don't want to just keep getting hammered and hammered and hammered. And I'm really proud of the way our teams go about things. And this comes back to Coach Cormany. Really proud of not only the record, but the way he's coached those students over the years. I think the proof is in the pudding, where so many of them have accredited him with all of the success that they've been able to find, because he really helped them along the way, and that's huge. We're so fortunate to have such outstanding young people that are participating, such outstanding leaders, coaches, teachers, mentors who are guiding them, and so many good things happening in Radford. It is good when we shout it from the mountaintops, because it can get very old hat. We get used to it, and we want to remember this is special. This doesn't happen everywhere. We have neighbors that are struggling with some of their programs, and they would love it if they were in the same position we're in. Definitely Highlanders Festival on Saturday. Come on out. We want to invite you to be sure to see the 2 bands, Abenach, who is, that is Scottish for Scottish, that's what that means, and then Sire, which is more of a Celtic folk band. Abenach is a drumming band, and so there's a lot of heavy percussion. It's a lot like Stomp with bagpipes, really high energy, good stuff. And then we've got the games all day. Chad Clark is all kinds of amazing. He is going to be leading the Highland Games, and on Wednesday, he's actually made arrangements with some of the strength and conditioning folks at the high school to take some of our athletes through some of the training they would do as Scottish heavyweight athletes. So it's going to be really kind of a neat thing. He's going to make sure they're all safe and taken care of, but they get to see what some of those athletes do. So that'll be Wednesday morning up at the high school. Next week, we have some exciting things. The Hub will be dedicated on Tuesday in downtown. You'll hear more about that this week. Watch your social media, and we'll be sharing that. It's really kind of a big deal. Hopefully, that's going to generate jobs and entrepreneurship and opportunity and all kinds of good things. A great partnership between Radford City and Radford University, and a nice jewel to have as part of our downtown revitalization and reimagining as we move forward there. Then the following weekend is Craft and Draft here at Glencoe Mansion on Saturday, and then also that Saturday is Homecoming at Radford University. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there are events, but there's a big concert on Saturday afternoon, so you could just celebrate all day long. And the Voltage Brothers will be playing in the middle of the afternoon on Moffett Field, the same place as the Highlanders Festival this weekend. So a lot happening. Speaking of a lot happening, I'd like at either our next meeting or our November meeting for us to finalize our legislative priorities for this next year. So council members, if you all have anything else you want to discuss, we can put that as an agenda item to talk about at our October 23rd meeting. I think we pretty much got it nailed down based on our retreat. But if there's anything anybody else has been thinking about, thinking, you know, we really need some more help with this, whether it's help with our social services and family funding here in the community, or trying to get some additional revenue back in the community, I think any of those things that our delegates and our senator can carry forward, that's a really important thing for us to think about. And as soon as the election's over, they're going to be preparing for General Assembly time, so we got to have our act in a row. We only have 3 more meetings this year. So we need to think about that too. So anything else we've got to do, we need to think about. On Saturday, we were able to go to the 100th anniversary celebration of the local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Those folks really spend a lot of time keeping history alive in our region, all of the connections we have with our founding fathers. They do a lot with education, they do a lot with cemetery restoration and cleanup, and they do a lot to remember those folks who served so many centuries ago. But on December 13th is their actual 100th anniversary. So I would like to add in our December meeting to the agenda a proclamation for the DAR 100th here in Radford and invite them to join us. I mentioned that on Saturday when I met with them. And we have a lot more going on. So October and November are going to be kind of full. We have anniversaries to celebrate with some of our businesses. We have all kinds of good things happening, and we want to celebrate all the good things, whether it's an individual, an organization, a business, or just folks in the community that we want to remember. So with that, we will go on and adjourn tonight. Say good night. Good night.